I think that is the single best marketing tool that we have available to us. Yeah, so it's all annoying until it's relevant.
Thanks for joining us on Outside the Box, where we talk through actionable strategies that help you generate more repeat, referral, and sphere of influence business. Referrals don't happen by accident, they happen on purpose. For those who don't know, my name is Chad Armbruster, CEO of BizBox, and alongside me, as always, is my co-host, full-time realtor, and son, Justin Armbruster.
Today, we have Bill Moomaw with Regal Realtors joining us all the way from Kaufman, Texas. Bill has been serving buyers and sellers in the greater Dallas area since 2019 and has sold over 500 homes, resulting in over $200 million in sales volume. Bill, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
How did you get into the real estate business?
I sold a house and bought a house. Had a really good transaction, saw how much the realtor made, and like many other people thought, wow, I'd like to make that kind of money. It really crept into my brain over some months. And I started thinking about how I could have done it differently, how I could have made the experience a little bit better. Then I ended up having a sudden career change that was unexpected and saw it as the opportunity to go ahead and move forward.
What did you do before?
So I had a long career in restaurants. So I would do restaurant management, all different levels of it, throughout the kitchen, front of house, the full restaurant, multi-unit. Did the whole thing, and was suddenly let go one day, and took a few months off after that to take some of my life back that I'd given away over the past 20 plus years. And man, really thought hard over it over that time period. My wife was working for a real estate attorney at the time, and she'd been doing it for a while. And she'd always tell me that I missed my calling by not doing the law or going into real estate. So real estate was a much quicker avenue, of course, than law at that point. So took a few months off, then ended up getting my license, and then went full bore, full time, started aggressively marketing myself and really understood the whole branding aspect of the career.
Is there anything you've pulled from your past career that you use today or you can attribute to some of your success, what you learned?
Yeah, it's one thing I tell my staff a lot, and a lot of them came from the restaurant industry with me, that I'll have these moments with sellers where they're really, really stressed, or even a buyer who's feeling like they can't get it done, or that it's just that the target date keeps moving further and further out. And I'll have these flashbacks to standing in the cooler with the server having a breakdown on Friday night, and hey, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Well, we got you. Get yourself cleaned up. We're gonna clean up your section. And then even like with upset people, when you just that understanding of frustration going high and intelligence dropping low, and frustration being expectations and reality not lining up. Just these simple concepts that you would get with dealing with people that are in these high stress situations and kind of dumping on you about it. It's a lot easier to handle and move through when I've lived it as the restaurant manager. So keeping their emotions in line, it definitely translates from career to career for me.
So I don't know if this is my perception or whether I've just heard this. I've heard the restaurant business is kind of tough, like hours or something. It seems like it's demanding. Am I wrong?
Yeah. It's definitely a grind. My daughter often mentions how I work more as a realtor than I did in restaurants, but I'm just more visible, just because I'm around. Even though I'm in my phone 24/7, just staring at the phone. But no, that was a lot of 6-day work weeks, minimum 8-hour day, maximum 14, 15-hour days. Lots of closing the restaurant and then opening it the next day, and all these things. It's very draining. The biggest difference, I would say, like, demand of my life is that I sleep better now. I have more consistent sleep than I did in the restaurants.
Well, that's important. So
It is.
So what's the one habit or routine that's helped you consistently stay in front of your sphere of influence and generate repeat and referral business?
Well, I grabbed on early to, this rings so true as we go through. I always tell new agents, your first deal's in your phone. And if you go around the room at my team meetings and we just go around the room, and 80% of us, our first deal came out of our phone. So I really focused on that early in my career. And then I started working with some online leads that I'd buy and referrals. And it was really clear to me that the referrals that came directly from my sphere of influence were way easier for me to build a relationship with those people. Throughout the transaction, it went smoother. There was more trust. And then even after the transaction, it felt more pure, the relationship, than when I would meet strangers. So I would start focusing a lot on those, on building that with my sphere of influence. I did it a lot by, I came into it as the real estate authority, and I carried myself that way. And I learned as much as I could about the real estate industry. I think that's what builds the trust with your friends and family. And then consistent outreach to them of a follow-up, minimum four conversations a year that you're reaching out to them. And I like mailing them things. I think that anything that has my logo or my photo on it is going to stick into their mind. And then the idea is that when they think real estate, that my image or my logo pops up in their mind's eye.
I love what you just said. Your first deal is in your phone. I just recently heard a stat in a book I was reading that, out of 100 homeowners nationwide, the average is 15%. There will be 15 transactions within that 100.
Wow.
Just whether that means, there's one family buys and sells, there's two, and maybe they buy an investment property, there's three. But on average, out of the 100 people, there's going to be 15 transactions in there. And so, you work those transactions well, even if there's 300, there's 45 transactions that are up for the taking if you're in front of them enough. So that's interesting.
Very true. I preach to my team that for every sphere of influence contact that you properly market to over the year, that will account for $500 of GCI. So the more people you can pack in there, the easier that gets to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think I understand what you're saying. So if you have a database of 100, you preach that there's $500 per for those what are $50,000 in that. That's interesting.
That's correct.
That's a good way of looking at it.
It's a great way to think about it too, because I think working by referral and repeat business, it's scary because it's not trackable. It's hard to put a gauge on what kind of year can I expect to have when I work strictly off of repeat and referral clients. It's like, well, there's a good law of averages. For every 100 people in your database, you can expect $500 in GCI. And so, it gives you something to work towards at least on, how to predict it.
Yeah, exactly. It puts it in their mind specifically, and it gets them to where, hey, every person you can add into this database will add $500 a year. So that's how you give yourself a raise. And if you work your sphere really hard, it can dry up. There's only so many transactions that people are going to do. So you have to continue to add people into that. And then you also have to enlist the help of your sphere of influence to also tap into the 15% that they have in their database that are going to be doing real estate transactions. That's where the money really makes it.
That's a good point. That's good. So what are some common mistakes that you see realtors making when trying to grow their business?
The number one mistake I think that they make is that they dip their toe into things marketing wise, and then they give up too early. So, like a sphere of influence marketing campaign is going to take a really long time to really catch. So, for instance, the boxes that you guys sell, we know that for someone that we're meeting a buyer, that's the entry level to it. Once we're sending these logoed items to them that are very useful and unexpected. Like if you ask people, what do you expect your realtor is going to do? None of them are going to mention they're going to send me moving materials. So when they get those, it really starts sticking into their mind. Then as time goes on and you're checking back with them and checking in with them to see how the house is after closing, and then, calling to tell them Happy 4th of July and Merry Christmas. And you're having all these touch points that come up. You're just kind of creeping it into their brain more and more and more. I call it becoming the mayor of your friends and family's minds, that you can't become mayor until they elect you. So that process takes time, and a lot of realtors don't understand that at the beginning. They're so used to trading their time for money instead of results and efforts for money, and it's something that's hard to grab onto.
Yeah,
that's a great point. There's too many. That's probably in almost any business, real estate, the service industry, any marketing campaign. Instant gratification. People want it, results right away, and if they don't get it right away, what's the point? It's not working. Well, might take some time. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So is there anything unique that you do to generate referrals or new business from your database that, other realtors might not think of?
We do use...
But before we get into that, the Outside the Box podcast, as you know, is all about repeat and referral business. And great realtors know the key is serving their clients.
At BizBox, we believe your marketing should do the same. BizBox branded moving boxes are marketing that serves your clients when they need it most.
Printed on two sides, packed with valuable supplies and delivered directly to your clients, BizBoxes are permanent branding that keeps you top of mind long after the move.
With packages starting at just 5 boxes and free design setup, there's a solution for every budget. Visit bizboxinc.com, click free setup, and create unforgettable marketing in minutes.
Stand out with BizBox while your competitors end up in the trash. Now, back to the show.
The CRM we use is really good with keeping us in front of our sphere of influence database. So consistently having those touches throughout the year. I do mail to my database as well. So the very first thing that they get from me is your boxes, and then post closing and through the lifetime of our relationship, they're getting all different types of things mailed to their homes, whether it be just little postcards or magazines, things that are branded and hopefully useful. I do think that mailing something to someone's house and them looking at it and thinking, why does Bill mail me so much stuff, and then throw it away? I think that is the single best marketing tool that we have available to us. It can be pricey, and you have to consistently do it for it to work. When we reach out, we do ask for referrals every time. That's the purpose of the call when we reach out. So we do ask for them. And if anybody gives me a referral, then I automatically send them a gift. Usually it's a food gift. I think these are the best ways for people to remember you and remember the moment with smells and tastes. So we mail them brownies. We do that every time, even if it doesn't go anywhere. Just getting the name and the contact.
I love that. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, you want them to know, it's not their fault it didn't go anywhere. It's just the situation that the person who was referred is in. But, you're still thankful for the opportunity that they remembered you, thought of you, took the time to refer to you. Yeah, it's just as important. It's great.
If you had to start over today, what would be your top priority for building a strong network of repeat, referral, and sphere of influence business?
Oh, that's easy. That is completed contacts all in the same place with an easy way to follow up with them. So completed contacts is name, phone number, email, and mailing address. Gathering all this information from all of your databases. So usually people, when they're starting in real estate and you bring up a database, they're going to think of one place. They're not going to think of, their Outlook calendar, their Facebook, their Instagram, their LinkedIn, and going to all of these different places, their Gmail, their Apple Mail, all the different accounts they may have, and pulling all those together, and then simply contacting those people, letting them know that you're in real estate, telling them you have a goal of helping 3 people in the next 90 days buy or sell a home, and then asking them for business. If you don't feel comfortable doing that immediately, then just make the call and tell them that you're completing your database and you want to make sure you had accurate information for them.
So when you
Don't
say
ask them.
Go for it. Continue.
Yeah, so don't come right out and ask them if you can have their updated email address. You simply put it straight to them. I'm updating my database. I wanted to get your current email address. What is that?
Yeah.
And that's simply doing it that way. People will fall into the cadence, and it's the easiest way for people to and give you their updated email address without thinking that you're going to start spamming them.
Right. So you said completed contacts. Is that just a phrase you use, have a place where all the completed contacts are, or do you use a CRM that has all of that, a one-stop shop for completed contacts?
Yeah, we use Follow Up Boss as our CRM, and it definitely has a spot where you can overkill with a completed contact there. But just I guess culture of my team, we say, the team knows if I say a completed contact, that I'm looking for those 4 items.
Gotcha.
I find that detail gets missed quite a bit by realtors. And then time will go on. I can speak from experience with this. Years will go by, and then all of a sudden it'll click in your mind, I should have everyone's completed contact information. And then you have to go back through the system where just from the beginning, like if you get in that habit right from the beginning, that's your mission, everyone you talk to, you get those 4 items. It makes it so much easier when you get busy to be busy.
And so those 4 items, you said name, phone number, email, mailing address.
Yep.
Perfect.
So I have a question. You had said a little bit ago that you always try to ask for referrals. When is that in the process, or how does that come up? I guess how do you approach that subject?
It depends on how long you've been having these conversations. So when you first start, those conversations are pretty long because you're catching up with people you haven't been talking to for a while. So those would always come at the end. As you've been making these calls, I know when the phone rings and they see my name, I know that they know that I'm going to ask for real estate. So a lot of times they bring it up to me. And so much so that now even at holiday events, I don't bring up real estate. They all come to me talking about real estate. But to answer your question better, the format is typically call, catch up, state the reason for your call, thank them for thinking, and then ask them to think about you in the future. So, hey, it's been a while since we caught up. What's going on? Hey, yeah, I know you probably know I'm in real estate. I have a goal right now where I want to help at least 3 people in the next 90 days buy or sell a house. Who do you know that may be looking to buy or sell? And then they're usually going to say they don't know, or they may say, oh, my brother, blah, blah, blah. And, they may give you the info, but typically they're going to say they don't. And then the whole reason for the call is so I can say, hey, thanks a lot for taking a second to think for me. Will you do me a favor? If you hear of someone looking to buy or sell real estate, will you think of me? And then that's it. And I say that so much to people. I think that those specific words, will you do me a favor? Will you think of me? Those, if you say those to people consistently, they will think of you. That's the only way they connect the dots. Otherwise, like what agents think happens is that their friend or family members at work and their coworker says, man, I'm thinking about selling my house. They think that they're going to say, oh, well, my friend Bill sells houses. You should call him. But in reality, they go, why are you going to sell your house? And they're like, oh, I'm going to move to Florida. Oh, why are you moving to Florida? Right? That's how the conversation goes. So if we don't help them connect the dots to where our image flashes in their mind as the avatar of real estate, then it doesn't really catch on until that happens in your life.
Yeah.
That's great advice.
I like what you said, and I think it's the most underrated part about a career in real estate. You said it earlier, when you're at a holiday event, a client event, or even just out in the community, if you're marketing right, people know you're in real estate and they bring it up. You don't even oftentimes have to ask. I think the most underrated part about our business is people like talking about our business. They like talking about houses. Can an insurance agent say the same thing?
No, they can't.
Yeah, but it's easy to talk about business with us because we don't have to pull it out of them. If we just have a conversation, hey, how's work going? More likely than not, they're going to ask you, how's the real estate market? How's work going?
Oh, they love it. Yeah. They want to know.
That's funny. So what do you think is the key to turning a one-time client into a lifelong referral source?
It is consistent follow-up. And the follow-up most of our follow-up is, hey, I hope you had a great weekend. I hope your holidays were awesome. Are you still full? That's the majority of our follow-up, is that type of conversation. We try and keep it like we're just talking to friends and family. And then it's not all real estate all the time with us. It's almost never real estate unless they're actively in real estate. We're just trying to keep the conversation going, like it never stops.
And I like that answer because I think it ties into our other question. What's something unique that you do to generate referrals? And your answer was, I don't know if I do anything unique. And that's not true. What you do unique is you do the boring stuff really well all the time. You're disciplined. You always do it. And when most people quit. And I think that in itself is unique because most people don't.
Man, you hit the nail on the head with the boring stuff, because the boring stuff is what pays the best. And it's the most boring, and you just don't want to do it. And I say phone calls are difficult to start and easy to continue. So whenever you get into, even if you're calling expireds, or if you're just going back through your cold leads, or even calling through your active clients, whatever it is that you're doing, it's usually difficult to start. But once you get going, you get in the rhythm, and you're like, all right, I'm ready for the next call. And it does take some discipline.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my next question. Is you were talking about the calls and asking for the referrals. Is this for people who have already done business with you? Is it just people who in your database? Do they do this regularly? Like, it's like, well, you want to make however many of these calls a week. I guess what type of, who are you calling, I guess, when you're asking for the referrals?
Yeah, we past client and sphere of influence. So sphere of influence is people that would know my face, and then people that they could draw my name in like 30 seconds of a conversation. Like if I see them at a party or at the store and I start talking to them, that they'll pull my name up as I'm talking. So anyone that fits in that category would be a sphere of influence contact. The people that know me instantly, we're going to focus on those people first. And then the other people are going to fall in line with it as well, of how we gather them into our database. Past clients, it's once they close a deal, then they go into a past client sequence. Our CRM categorizes both of them the same, with the follow-up routine of being 90 days. So all we do is we go in and we look at our call list for the day. If they're on the call list that day, then we call them and log the call. And then follow-up boss sets it for another 90 days after that for us to make that call again. And then we use some different vendors for printing, like magazines and these postcards and things like that. So we build the database as we go, and then we upload the new database every month or so, I guess, is where we'll go to those mail out programs.
How often are you mailing to clients? Because I always fight the battle of, I don't want to mail too much and be annoying, but at the same time, I also know no one pays as much attention to my marketing as I do. And so I guess how do you balance that?
Yeah. So it's all annoying until it's relevant. So none of us want to talk to a car salesman ever. Like, none of us ever wake up and think about that. Or if given the opportunity, we're like, I don't want to talk to a car salesman. But the moment we want to buy a car, we're looking for a car salesman. And this mentality is the exact same with mail. So as you're mailing to people, they're going to look at it and they're going to wonder why you're mailing to them. And they may find it to be a nuisance. But the nuisance is that Bill mails me too much real estate marketing. That's what they're thinking about in their mind. So it's easy to then decide, well, regardless of how irritated they may be with this mail, all they're doing is throwing it away. And then whenever real estate comes into their life, the chance of my image flashing in their mind or that postcard flashing in their mind is very high. So I at the beginning, I did think it was too much, but now I don't think it is. But I mail monthly. I mail something every month.
That's about what I do as well. And, between calendars, random postcards, that's great.
Yeah. Every month they get something, and then they get a voice call from me 4 times a year. And then my assistant reaches out often too.
Awesome.
So we do a lot of touches. I would call it overwhelming.
Yeah.
Over index.
Yeah. But I mean, you have to, as I said earlier, no one pays more attention to all the marketing you're doing than you are. And so, of course, it's going to feel like it's a lot, to you, you spent $500 mailing out all these postcards. To the client, they got it in the mail, saw it, threw it away. It's a touch, but it's not nearly as impactful to them as it is to us, thinking that we're being overwhelming.
100% agree. Same thing with being on camera, right?
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to a new realtor when it comes to building their sphere of influence business?
Well, think through everyone. Tom Ferry has a good list called the ABCs of building your database. So that list is fantastic. It will have you, and if you complete it in its entirety, it's got like, who's your postman and who cut your kid's hair? Who do you order flowers from? All these random questions, but it'll really get your brain going to build out that list, to start building that database. Then again, pulling all of your databases from all the relevant places, and then contacting those people to get their full contact info.
So if it sounds like that's the big thing with, your agents and new agents that you talk about, the sphere of influence and stuff like that, which takes time. This is maybe a silly question. Do you tell the agents, hey, are you okay with, not being paid for a long time, or this is going to be a struggle?
Oh yeah. I tell them all they need at least 6 months of income. You need to be able to go at least 6 months. Real estate has an 87% failure rate. I'm sure we've all heard these numbers. It's 87% of agents do not renew their license at the 2-year mark. So that's a high rate of washout for this industry. And my opinion is the number one reason they do is they're not financially prepared. We see kitchen nightmares on TV showing how people can't run their restaurants the right way. And, a professional comes in and is like, why are you doing this? And It's because they go to restaurants all the time and they think they understand what's happening and they think they can do it. Same with real estate, is that you go through the process of getting your license and then everyone high fives you, you got it, and then everyone's gone. There's no one there to help you anymore. So people start doing what they think is important, and they run out of money and they get commission breath and they start chasing the money over chasing a relationship. And, it just doesn't work that way. You have to build the relationships. That's the whole business, is having real estate conversations and building relationships. And then the money follows you along through that. But it's not standing there waiting to pay you on Friday.
Yeah, that's good. So can you share your biggest referral success story and what you believe contributed to that success?
Yeah, so it started with my first billboard that I put up. My wife talked me into putting up a billboard, and it's funny. I have several billboards, and they don't really generate phone calls. I think that they give you like a you're everywhere feeling. But I put it up, and I got a phone call in the first week, and the guy was ready to list his house, and from that phone call, I became 3 different family realtors. And I think I just closed transaction number 20 on that. Or no, I just listed number 20 from that phone call, which is just this sequential, like, oh, let me introduce you to this person. And then put the house on the market. And then you get a sign call and you meet those people. And then they buy a house and then they give you a referral. And, then all of a sudden kids are calling you Uncle Bill. And it's funny how it translates. And that just really falls onto the heels of it's all a relationship building business. And if you're focused on creating a really good experience and building a genuine relationship with people, then they're going to want to help you out. And they're going to want to share that experience with their friends and family. And when they give that referral, they'll give it with pride and want to follow up and say, man, didn't Bill do a good job? Those are the things that really make your business grow and the fundamentals of what we do, really.
Giving a referral with pride. I always think and tell other realtors and even tell myself on a daily basis, referrals aren't given when you do the job you're hired to do. They're given when you go above and beyond what they expected. And then they become fans and they give those referrals with pride. We would love to send Bill business because he did this. It was awesome. But, Bill sold our house. Referrals don't come from that, but it comes from a great customer experience.
Yeah, I agree completely.
That's awesome.
They get them something to get excited about.
Yeah. I have a question that we didn't have on here, and maybe we'll cut it, maybe we won't. But I had a question. I am thinking about hiring an assistant for my real estate business, and you have a team around you. What are some of the most important things you were looking for in your first hire? What were they doing for you?
So what I did was my first hire was an unlicensed assistant, which was helpful, but making the decision to hire the licensed assistant was one of the most impactful decisions I made in my business. The second impactful decision I made was getting a work phone number that wasn't my cell phone number. That was one of the first ways I was able to actually start taking a day off, because I often say our days off are easy work days and our vacations are easy work weeks. That's how it goes, right?
Nailed it.
Yeah, you're not working from home, you're living at work, right? What I did was I wrote down everything I did, and then I circled everything I don't want to do. And I hired someone to do those things. It kind of moved around and changed up a lot. Now what my assistant does now, so she was a buyer agent on my team, and she would do all the things. She would just 100% buy in, trust to the systems and processes. But she just couldn't really get it closed. So as time went on, I was like, hey, look, you do all the things well that I don't have time to do anymore. And if you can get me into an appointment, I'm locking it down. So now she manages my database completely. She manages all of my active listings, and she's a licensed realtor, so she's doing a lot of that. She's making a lot of outbound phone calls. It depends on what you want them to do. I look at everything as buying my time back. So I think it's like 8,500 hours in the year. So I take last year's income divided by 8,500. That's how much I get paid for every hour of my life, because I don't get paid per hour. I'm just living and making money. So everything that I don't want to do, how can I arbitrage that money to them? So, if I make $80 an hour and I can pay them $20 an hour, it's a no-brainer. Do it. And then I can take that time back to either I categorize my life into working or resting categories. So working is things that I have to do to continue my business, and resting is things that I choose to do on my own time. So I factor those all two in there, and then I go into the to the things I want to do category for the assistant. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does. I in my head, I'm breaking down the 2,080 hours, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, kind of hourly. But that makes sense. There's a strong reality that you're working a lot more than that, even if it's, just sending texts in the evenings, follow-up calls, being out and about during your kids' events and things. I mean, it's all work. And so your hourly might be less than what it really is. And so, but how can you arbitrage that?
It's every hour of your life,
Yeah.
even while you're sleeping and taking a shower. Yeah, it's all the same.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
The assistant factor, it can. What I tell my top agents, because they're starting to get to where they're needing an assistant. If you don't have your processes locked down, you're going to waste money on assistants, because they're going to hate you. They're going to feel like they're not able to work with you, or that you're making the job harder. So having a tight CRM and having a tight schedule, that if it's not on your schedule, it's not happening. That mentality needs to be very strong in you before you start spending money on assistants, because you'll spend a lot. Personnel is the biggest margin in our business. I think taxes and people.
Yeah, other than taxes, yeah. The IRS gets theirs.
So do you view the assistant, or should an agent view the assistant as, like you said, this is the way for me to get my time back, or I'm spending this money because I can then go and create more business and grow my business? I mean, is that a good reason to hire the assistant?
Yeah, I would argue it's the same thing, because like what most realtors will do is they'll, especially if they really like what they're doing, is they'll just work and work and work and work and work until they hit burnout points, and then they'll struggle through the burnout, and then they'll finally rest a little bit, and then they'll try and chug back in. Where I look at it like major league pitching, to where you have to have your rest periods, like you have to. So when I'm writing my schedule, schedule's been a big focus for me for a while. I schedule my vacation, then I schedule my time off, then I schedule important meetings, and then I schedule like appointment slots and all that type of thing. So the first two things that I schedule every month and year is vacation and time off. So I think that you'll make more money if you take the right time off. But yes, everything is like, well, I'm gonna have someone else do this so I can spend more time doing this. My highest and best use of time is talking to an agent, deal doctoring a transaction, or sitting in a living room talking to a potential seller. Those are the two spots that I'm most impactful on GCI for me and my team.
And would you recommend getting a licensed assistant versus a non-licensed one?
Well, I mean, I would say non-licensed, even a virtual assistant is okay to get started with. It's definitely going to be, a quarter of the cost of a licensed assistant. A licensed assistant is going to be a pretty big chunk out of your pay. So I would make sure that I know what I want them to do, and that me and that person are aligned on how they're going to work, and specifically, like, can they run their own deals? How much? When are they working for you, and when are they working for themselves? And are you doing salary? Or are you doing just commission based? And what's that split between the two? And how's that going to affect their taxes? And then, of course, a licensed assistant, your chances are you're putting them on some type of salary. So now you have payroll taxes, and there's just a lot of new complications that come with that position. So I would always recommend even getting a virtual assistant is good. You again have to have solid systems and practices, just because culturally they're going to want to follow a list beginning to end.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, Bill, as we wrap up our time today, we like to end with some rapid fire questions. Whatever comes to your mind first, we'll hit you with it, and just give it to us straight. Let me know when you are ready.
Let's do it.
Zillow, Realtor.com, or Homes.com? What do you use? What do you recommend to a client?
Oh, I love that question. I'm a Realtor.com person.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Office or home office?
I would choose office, but I do spend more time at home office.
Perfect. Instagram or Facebook?
Facebook.
Podcast or book?
Podcast.
Podcast or audiobook?
Probably podcast.
All right. What's the most impactful podcast that you listen to?
Probably Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah.
There we go.
Are you a religious Joe Rogan Experience guy, or is it?
Yeah, I am.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. What is the most underrated app in your phone, business or personal?
Tour Tempo.
Tour Tempo. What's that do?
It's a golf swing tempo sequencing app.
Love it. You a fellow golfer?
Oh yeah.
It just comes with the job, doesn't it? You get your real estate license.
It really does, man. It's one of my lead sources for 2025.
Yep. Love it. Love it. Love it. Last question. If a listener wanted to refer a client to you, what local areas do you serve, and how could they best get a hold of you?
Oh yeah. Great question. So you can go to billmoomaw.com or housemoomaw.com, or Instagram or Facebook. And that's for Moomaw Realty Group. But our office is in Kaufman, but we service surrounding areas between DFW and Tyler. So I have a team of 20 agents that cover that large span. And we go down to Cedar Creek Lake, and we go up to kind of like, Denton would be far.
And we're talking Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, Texas.
Perfect. Hey, Bill, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your time more than you know, and we hope you crush your 2025 goals.
Yeah, thanks, guys.